Hello children, welcome to our online classes. Hope you are safe staying at home. Just before going to the first lesson, let us see the life around us. There are 8 planets in the universe, isn't it? In these 8 planets, only the planet that has life is the Earth. After the formation of Earth, it took millions of years for the formation of life. After that, the life existed successfully. For the successful existence of life, the living organisms are undergoing certain processes. These are called life processes. What are they called? Life processes. Why are these life processes needed for every organism? For every organism, the life processes are needed for the successful survival on this earth. The life has to be continued. It should not stop. There should be a continuation to the life on this earth. We observed that some organisms became extinct. They are not there now. Once upon a time they were there, they existed on this earth successfully, but later they became extinct. They completely perished from this earth. Why did they perish? Why did they become extinct? If we go to the reasons, some organisms became extinct just because of lack of food. Food is very, very essential for survival, isn't it? If there is no food, can we grow? Can we get energy? Can we repair our body? Can we be healthy? No, not at all. So, food is very, very, very essential for every living organisms to live successfully on this earth. Because of lack of food, some species became extinct. Some organisms were eaten away by the predators excessively, so they became extinct. Some organisms, because of unfavorable conditions on this earth, they became extinct. So there are several reasons for the extinction of a particular organism. But the other organisms are continuously succeeding on this earth, successfully surviving on this earth. How do they survive like this? How is it possible for these organisms to survive on this earth, and why do those organisms perish? Those organisms perish because of their unfavorable conditions, or maybe lack of food, or maybe the attack by predators, so on and so forth. But the other organisms, all other species which are successfully living on this earth today are undergoing these life processes. What are the life processes? The life processes are nothing but the processes that are followed, that are carried on by the organisms to survive successfully, to continue their race. What are these basic life processes? Without these basic life processes, no organism can survive on this earth. So what are the basic life processes? There are certain basic life processes which are very, very essential for any organism to live successfully on this earth and to continue their own race. What are they? Let us see the basic life processes. The first one is very, very important life process, that is nutrition. When we are in the womb of our mother only, we start nourishing on our mother's placenta, isn't it? In the womb of the mother. So from then itself, when the zygote is formed, already I said last year, every living organism starts its life with a single cell, that is the zygote, isn't it? This single cell divides repeatedly and gives rise to a group of tissues. The group of tissues together form an organ. Different organs performing the same function come under an organ system. The different organ systems together form an organism. In such a way, from a single cell, an organism evolves. So this single cell, which is which I said zygote, it feeds on its mother. It feeds on food. It has to be nourished. So nutrition is very essential from the beginning of the life in a living organism. From the beginning of its life, from the single cell, from the zygote stage itself, the nutrition is very essential to live, to be alive, isn't it? What is nutrition? You know pretty well, already in 6th, 7th classes you studied what is nutrition. Nutrition is nothing but taking in food. Food is nothing but nutrients. What are the nutrients? Carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. So taking in these nutrients is called nutrition, isn't it? So nutrition is taking in food, not only taking in food, consuming it. Taking in food and consuming it for getting energy. Taking in food and consuming means what? Utilizing it to get energy. To get energy, to grow, to repair our body. A repair means, suppose there is any wound, that wound does not sustain like that. It will be healed because of the food we take. There are proteins in that new food. These proteins help in repairing the body, to repair and to be healthy. So, taking in food, consuming it to get energy, to grow, to repair the body and to be healthy is called nutrition. Every organism needs nutrition. Without nutrition, can the organism live? No. So this is the basic life process taken up by all the living organisms on this earth. But there are different modes of nutrition that also you have learned already in primary classes. What are the different modes? The basic two types of nutrition are autotrophic nutrition, and the second one is heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic. In autotrophic nutrition, you know pretty well that all the plants come under autotrophic nutrition because they prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis and they provide food for other organisms also. Heterotrophic nutrition, mainly animals. Animals, they depend on other organisms for food, on other organisms. Here, trophos means nourishment. So, auto means self. They are nourishing themselves. That is why they are called autotrophs. Plants are nourishing themselves. But animals depend on other organisms for nourishment. That is why hetero on others. That is why they are called heterotrophic. Understood? In heterotrophic nutrition, again, there are three types. Saprotrophic or saprophytic. In saprotrophic nutrition, the organisms depend on dead and decaying organic matter. This also you have learnt already. Dead and decaying organic matter. For example, after the death, the organic matter means the flesh will be eaten away by the saprotrophs or saprophytes. Example, bacteria and fungi. They eat away the dead and decaying organic matter of the dead bodies of plants as well as animals. Next one, Holozoic nutrition. Holozoic nutrition means here the organisms take either solid or liquid food. Either solid food or liquid food from other organisms. Here comes all animals, including human being. Next one, parasites. Parasites depend on other organisms for food. Here you may get a doubt. In holozoic nutrition also the organisms are getting food from other organisms. But what is the difference between holozoic and parasitic? That one you have to understand. In holozoic nutrition, they get the animals get food from the other organisms, either solid food or liquid food. But here the thing is, the organism will be killed. Suppose you eat a plant, isn't it? That plant will be getting harm. Its part is cut from its body, plant body. From animal body, animal means we are killing them and eating. Like that, here the organism gets some harm. That is the important point. Here, it may be killed or it may not be killed. Sometimes its part is cut and it's getting some, in one way or the other way, it is getting some harm in holozoic nutrition. But here, the parasitic nutrition, these parasites, they depend on other organisms for food. For example, mosquito sucks the blood of human beings. Here the important thing is, children, mosquitoes suck our blood, but they harm us. But the microorganisms that are attached to its legs or to its wings, or sometimes if it sucks the blood from the infected person and it bites others, then the disease causing microorganisms may be transmitted. But this mosquito does not cause harm directly. Mosquito sucks the blood, but while it is sucking, the microorganisms, the disease causing microorganisms may enter the body of this parasite unless there is no harm. Mosquitoes, lice, they suck the blood from the scalp, pelu. Mosquitoes, you know, isn't it? These are the parasites. In primary classes, you have learned a plant, Cuscuta. It is a slender stem, yellow color stem. It does not have chlorophyll, so it takes food from the other plants. It creeps on other plants and it gets nutrition. So the thing is, in animals are heterotrophs. Heterotrophic nutrition, again 3 types: saprotrophic, holozoic, parasitic. In saprotrophic nutrition, they feed on the dead and decaying organic matter of plants and animals. And here in holozoic nutrition, here saprotrophic example, bacteria and fungi. In holozoic nutrition, the plants or animals, they depend on the animals, they take solid or liquid food from other organisms, or the animals come under holozoic nutrition. Parasitic nutrition, mosquitoes and bedbugs, lice, Cuscuta, so many are there. Parasites, ribbon worm, that's a tapeworm. These are parasites. This is about modes of nutrition. What is nutrition? Taking in food and consuming it to get energy, to be healthy, to grow and to repair our body. What are the modes of nutrition? Major modes of nutrition are autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. And in heterotrophic nutrition, again holozoic, saprozoic, parasitic. Now coming to the plants. Nutrition in plants. How do plants get food? Plants prepare their own food from carbon dioxide and water using sunlight. In presence of sunlight and chlorophyll in the leaves or chloroplasts. The chloroplasts have chlorophyll. The pigment present in the chloroplast is chlorophyll. In these chloroplasts only the food is prepared. See children, if your mother wants to prepare a dish or she wants to prepare puri, what does she want? She want a dish like this. In this only she can prepare puri, isn't it? And down of it some flame must be there. Without this flame, can she cook the food? She can't. So here, for the fuel for preparation of food for plants is sunlight, and the dish is this chloroplast, and the raw materials are here wheat flour and water, salt, etc. But here the raw materials are carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide and water are inorganic substances. They are not organic, they are inorganic substances. From these inorganic carbon dioxide and water, the plant prepares carbohydrate. The simple form of carbohydrate is glucose, C6H12O6. What is C6H12O6? Glucose. So, from simple inorganic substances, the plant prepares organic carbohydrates. Organic. Carbohydrates are organic. The simple form of carbohydrate is glucose. What is the simple form of carbohydrate? Glucose. So, from carbon dioxide and water, in presence of sunlight, within the chloroplast, glucose is prepared by the green parts of the plants. That is photosynthesis. So, in photosynthesis, what happens? What reaction does the leaves undertake? Let us see. In presence of sunlight, I said. So, the chlorophyll in the chloroplast, chlorophyll is the green color substance present in the chloroplast. This green color substance, the chlorophyll, absorbs the sunlight, and this sunlight breaks down water into hydrogen and oxygen. What happens? The water molecule is broken down into hydrogen and oxygen. Okay? The water molecule is broken down to hydrogen and oxygen. This hydrogen comes and gets attached to carbon dioxide. At the same time, carbon dioxide is reduced. Reduction occurs here. Reduction means you already learned oxidation and reduction. What is oxidation? Removal of removal of oxygen. Removal of oxygen or addition of hydrogen. Addition of hydrogen. What happens when chlorophyll in the chloroplast? Where are these chloroplasts? The chloroplasts are in the green parts of the plants. Green parts of the plants are mainly the leaves. Sometimes the stems also have chloroplasts. So, in the green chloroplasts, the green pigment is chlorophyll. This chlorophyll absorbs the sunlight. No other substance can absorb sunlight on this earth. Only chlorophyll in the chloroplast can absorb directly sunlight. So, absorbing, after it absorbs the sunlight, the light energy is converted to chemical energy. Here, the light energy gets converted to chemical energy, and water molecule is split into hydrogen and oxygen. After that, what happens? This hydrogen comes and gets attached to carbon. For that purpose, the carbon dioxide is also split. The carbon dioxide loses oxygen. Removal of oxygen or the addition of hydrogen is reduction process. So here reduction occurs. As a result, carbon dioxide is reduced and hydrogen gets attached to carbon. As a result, what is formed? C6H12O6. This one is produced. In detail in plus 2 you can learn if you take BPC, but it is not in detail for you now. Till here only it's sufficient for you children. So don't get confused. The inorganic substance raw materials for the preparation of food in plants are carbon dioxide and water. In presence of sunlight within chloroplast, the glucose is produced. For that purpose, the chlorophyll in the chloroplast absorbs the sunlight. That sunlight is light energy. Light energy is converted to chemical energy. So the water molecule is split. The water is absorbed by the roots, and the carbon dioxide is taken by the stomata in the leaves. This water molecule is split into hydrogen and oxygen, and the carbon dioxide is reduced, oxygen is removed. One oxygen molecule will be removed. So what happens is this hydrogen gets attached to carbon and C6H12O6 is produced. That is the glucose. In such a manner, plants prepare food for themselves, and also they provide food for all other organisms on this earth. That is why plants are the producers of food. Plants are producers and animals are always consumers. Plants are the primary producers of food, and sun is the ultimate source of energy on this earth. Sun is the ultimate source of energy, and plants are the primary producers and animals are the primary consumers. They consume either plant food or animal food. Is it clear, children? So, next is nutrition in animals. Nutrition in animals. In the food we take, or in the food the animals take, I said already there are 5 nutrients. What are they? Carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. There are 5 nutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins and minerals. These 5 nutrients are there in the food that we eat or that the animals take. In these 5, vitamins and minerals are the simple nutrients, whereas carbohydrates, proteins and fats are the complex nutrients. Why do we refer them as complex? Because these 3 cannot be absorbed by blood directly. Carbohydrates, proteins and fats cannot be absorbed by blood directly. They have to be broken down to their simple forms. Carbohydrates are to be broken down to glucose, and proteins have to be broken down to amino acids. Fats are to be broken down to fatty acids. If they are broken down, then only the blood can absorb. Blood can absorb glucose. Blood cannot absorb carbohydrates. Blood cannot absorb proteins, but it can absorb amino acids. It cannot absorb fats, but it can absorb fatty acids. That is why these 3 nutrients have to be broken down. So they are broken down in the body of animals or human being. Human being is also included in animal kingdom. He is not given a separate kingdom. He is included in the animal kingdom. So human being is a social animal. So what happens within the body of human beings? There is, I said already, the zygote undergoes a single cell. The zygote undergoes repeated mitotic divisions, and a group of tissues are formed. These tissues together form organs, organs together form organ systems, and organ systems together form an organism, a complete organism. So the organ system, there are different organ systems in the body. What are the different organ systems? It may be digestive system, respiratory system, transport system, nervous system, reproductive system. Different systems are there. So digestive system, the organs that perform digestion come under digestive system. What are the different organs in the digestive system of human being? See, we can't learn all the animals' digestive systems, isn't it? Veterinary doctors can learn about the digestive system of different animals, but we need not learn all the digestive systems of all the other animals and all. So, being human beings, we should know about our body. There should be a basic knowledge about our organ systems. That is why Central Board of Secondary Education introduced digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory, transport system, excretory system, reproductive system, so on and so forth for you in the curriculum about human body. We should have some basic knowledge about our systems in our body. That is why it is given for you. About other animals' digestive systems, we need not learn, that veterinary doctors can learn. So, digestive system in human beings. The digestive system in human beings starts with the mouth, and it opens into a tube called esophagus, and this esophagus opens into stomach. This is the mouth, and this is esophagus. Stomach. This is ileum. And here the largest gland in our body, what is that? Liver. Which is the largest gland in our body? Liver. And here this is gallbladder. And from this side there is a leaf-like organ called pancreas. What is this one? Pancreas. And this one is stomach. Is a J-shaped sac-like structure. Mouth. And here this is pancreas. And this one this is large intestine, and this one is, you see, this is a long coiled tube, nearly 7 to 7.5 meters long it is very much coiled tube. Yes. Finally, it opens into large intestine. Yes. So, in the mouth there are teeth. 20 actually here the teeth, when the child is born, a newborn child does not have teeth. In the 6th or 8th month the teeth start growing. When they start growing, from that day onwards the child gets by the age of 5 years or 6 years, the child gets 20 milk teeth altogether. 20 milk teeth. These 20 milk teeth, again the child starts losing from 6th year, 7th year, 8th year, like that they lose gradually, and the new teeth grow in that place. Altogether, an adult human being has 32 permanent teeth. The children have 20 milk teeth. After they lose their milk teeth, permanent teeth grow. Altogether 32 teeth an adult human being has. In these 32 we have incisors, canines, premolars and molars. Incisors for cutting and tearing the food, canines these are for cutting and biting the food, and canines for tearing the food, premolars and molars for chewing the food. Incisors are the front teeth for cutting. If you want to eat any fruit, apple or guava or any other fruit, how do you eat? Using the incisors. Banana you eat with front teeth only, isn't it? Incisors. Canines, we eat sugar cane, leg piece, whatever it is, we eat with the canines. We use side teeth. And premolars and molars, we chew with the premolars and molars, dantalivi. So incisors, canines, premolars and molars, 4 sets of teeth are there. In 32, among these 32, 4 types of teeth are there. These teeth help in cutting, tearing and chewing the food. And the tongue, which is present in the mouth, helps in mixing the food thoroughly. There is a muscular tongue which helps in mixing the food. And there are salivary glands in our mouth. 3 pairs of salivary glands are there. A pair of parotid, a pair is submaxillary and other pair is sublingual. Parotid, maxillary and sublingual. These 3 pairs of salivary glands are present in the mouth. They secrete saliva. This saliva makes the food soft and easy to swallow. And in saliva, there is an enzyme called amylase. What is the enzyme? Amylase. This amylase digests carbohydrates, a little bit carbohydrates, and convert them into glucose. That is why you chew the rice, raw rice, and observe, you feel sweetness after chewing that, because in that rice carbohydrates are there, you all know pretty well. So the carbohydrates are converted to glucose. That is why you feel sweet when you chew them. You chew and see raw rice. That is, the amylase is the enzyme that is present in the saliva that breaks down a little bit carbohydrates into glucose, and the food enters then we swallow that. The food enters the esophagus. In the esophagus, when the bowl of food enters, the wall of the esophagus is very narrow, but it becomes expanded. When this part gets expanded, when this moves downwards, it becomes normal again, and here it expands. And again, the back part, the previous part will contract. This part expands, and again this food bowl comes here, this part will contract and here it will expand, like that, in such a manner. That movement is called peristatic movement. Peristatic, S-T-A-L-T-I-C. Here L is silent. Peristatic movement. So the bowl of food comes into the stomach. It enters the stomach. In the stomach, the walls of the stomach are lined with gastric glands. These gastric glands, they secrete mucus, pepsin and hydrochloric acid. What are produced here? Mucus, pepsin and hydrochloric acid. This mucus keeps the walls of the stomach moist, and pepsin converts proteins to amino acids. The pepsin is the enzyme present in the gastric juice. What are these glands called in the walls of the stomach? Gastric glands. What do gastric glands secrete? Gastric juice. What are present in the gastric juice? Mucus, pepsin and hydrochloric acid. Mucus keeps the stomach moist. Pepsin converts proteins to amino acids, and hydrochloric acids keeps the medium of the stomach acidic, and it kills the harmful bacteria in the food. From here, the food enters, it stays here 2 to 3 hours and it enters the small intestine. In the small intestine, the complete digestion occurs. Complete digestion occurs means completely carbohydrates are broken into glucose, proteins are broken down to amino acids, and fats are broken down to fatty acids and glycerol in the small intestine. Why only in the small intestine it occurs? Because I said this is the largest gland, liver, and this is another gland, pancreas. The liver secretes bile. That bile is stored in the gallbladder. The bile has bile juice and bile salts. The bile juice makes the food alkaline, and the bile salts break down fats into glycerol or fatty acids. That is the work of the liver. But pancreas, here only the pancreas secretes the enzymes which break down carbohydrates, proteins and fats. So these the pancreatic juice and bile juice, the bile juice secreted by liver, the pancreatic juice secreted by pancreas are released into the small intestine. See, here they are opening, no? At the entrance of the small intestine only. This is stomach. Stomach ends here and opens into small intestine. At this entrance only, the pancreas opened into the small intestine, and liver also opened into small intestine. Liver sends bile juice into the small intestine. Pancreas secretes pancreatic juice and sends it to the small intestine. In the pancreatic juice, all the enzymes which are necessary for the breakdown of nutrients are present. Those enzymes are trypsin, lipase. This trypsin breaks down proteins completely into amino acids. Lipase breaks down fats into fatty acids in glycerol completely. So, trypsin and pepsin in the small intestine completes the digestion. So, after the complete digestion, the digested food means glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins and minerals are absorbed by the walls of the small intestine. Means the walls of the small intestine are supplied richly with blood vessels. These blood vessels absorb that food and take to each and every living cell in our body. Then what happens to the undigested food? One more point here, in the walls of small intestine, there are finger-like projections which increase the area of absorption. They increase the area of absorption. More absorption occurs in the small intestine because of these villi. Villus singular, villi plural. Okay. In the undigested food enters the large intestine. In the large intestine, the undigested food passes like this. From here, While it is going like that, the water will be absorbed by the walls of the large intestine. So, small intestine walls absorb the nutrients and the walls of the large intestine absorb water. The undigested food enters the rectum. The final terminal part of the large intestine is rectum. There the undigested food gets stored and it is sent out as fecal matter, feces. Number 2. It is sent out through anus. That hole is called anus. So, alimentary canal from mouth to anus. This is a single tube. Mouth opens into esophagus, esophagus into stomach, stomach opens into small intestine opens into large intestine, large intestine opens out through anus. This is a single tube from mouth to anus, isn't it? And in between, 2 glands are also associated with this. What are those 2 glands? Liver and pancreas. In the mouth, 3 pairs of salivary glands. In the stomach, gastric glands. And liver, the largest gland, opens into the small intestine. Pancreas opens into small intestine. So, what are the glands associated with digestive system? Salivary glands in the mouth, gastric glands in the stomach, liver and pancreas which open into the small intestine. These are the glands associated with human digestive system. Hope you understood, children. So read the lesson from textbook also. If you get any doubt, you can ask me. Next life process is respiration. Every organ system, all the life processes are linked up with each other in any organism. So in the next session, I will explain respiration. We respire. Without respiration, no organism can live on this earth. So respiratory system, I will explain in the next session. Thank you, children.